got a question, Dave.
Okay.
In business,
Mm-hmm.
can you fake it till you make it?
I love this question. Can you? Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. I've seen a number of people do it. I did it for a while, too.
Yeah?
Oh, totally. In the first business, for sure, man.
Care to share?
Okay, so in my first agency, I was 25 years old when I started it. And I looked every bit like a 25-year-old.
Really?
It's crazy. It's crazy. So I definitely tried to project a bigger business than we had. Because I felt... Because it's that whole head trash game, right? It's
Totally.
like writing a book or doing something you've never done before. You're like, can I do this? Who allows me to do this? I felt the same way, by the way. I'm curious about your experience. I felt this way when we took our first kid home.
Okay.
Like, I was like, they're just going to let us take her home. No one's checking the car seat. No one's checking.
This is from the hospital, by the way.
Yeah.
Not just like randomly off the street.
No. Yeah. No, my wife gave birth to our child together in the hospital. Yes. It was just the same moment of like, I can't believe we're just taking this child home that is dependent upon us for life. And I felt that similarly when we started the business. I was just like, who said I get to do this? I mean, I know we have a license with the state, but like, what the heck, man? This is so crazy.
Oh man.
I would definitely, like, if we had part-time people, I would include them in our head count as an example. If we had I had experience running AdWords before and Meta ads and that sort of thing. But I would definitely be like, oh yeah, we've got like a number of clients, and I'd just make it sound. I didn't necessarily lie. It wasn't like we have 24 clients and we had 3, but I was like, yeah, we've got a number of clients and we had 3, right? Like it was not we have a handful or something.
3 is a number.
3 is a number. And it was one of those things where I didn't find, until I found a mentor in that space in early 2014, I started following a guy who's still a friend, actually. And he said generally to people, he was like, don't fake it till you make it. Just tell people you're small. Tell people you're new. A lot of people would actually be into that they're like helping a young entrepreneur. They're helping a young agency owner. They're one of your first customers. They get to be a testimonial. Like, some people will actually be more of a raving fan if you're just honest with them about where you're at. And there are other people that will be able to see through it anyways. They're just going to be like, all right, dude, whatever. And they're not going to go with you. And so what that did for me was it gave me the permission to just go like, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, as I got further into business, I didn't want to fake it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I was like, I just want to be myself. And I had moments where I had this one moment where a potential client and I were out one night, and he was just like, I could tell that he was drinking more drinks because I was buying the drinks, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, dude, let's go to the strip club. And I was like, hey, man, I'm not going. You go for it. You go do your thing. And he's like, man, I won't sign with somebody that can't go to the club with me. And I just looked him in the eyes and I laughed. And I was like, well, sounds like we're not going to work together. Good chatting with you, bro. I shook his hand, paid the tab, and walked out. And like, there are moments where being untrue to yourself are actually harmful, and finding clients that you genuinely want to work with.
That's such a cool story, man.
Thanks.
Yeah. No, I mean, there definitely is when you do something for the first time, there is a level of you're faking it till you make it. And sure. I think that's acceptable. It's not necessarily a lie.
No.
Like, I remember this client who I was doing some work for, and they asked me if I could do this one very clever thing on their website. I'd never done it before. Never even thought about doing it before. It wasn't like on my radar.
Yeah.
And my mouth opens up, and you know this feeling. My mouth opens up and goes, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And he's like, great, can you have it done tomorrow?
Oh my God. Nice.
And so I was like, yeah, no problem. It'll take me, a little bit of time.
Sure.
No worries. So I go home. I pulled an all-nighter.
Oh my God.
I even hired a guy on Fiverr from like Indonesia to walk me through at like 3 a.m. my time, like
Yep.
how to do this thing. Pounded it out, took like an hour nap, went back to the client. I was like, there you go, man. It's all done.
Yeah. I have certainly had those when you're early on in your business sometimes, whether I think it's easier to do with services because like you can kind of flex the service a little bit. And that includes like home services, right? Because I know there's some licenses you have to perform certain things, and there are other places where you don't need licensing really at all, or maybe you can have a general contracting license and you're really specialized as an electrician, but this person asked something about their HVAC. It's kind of close. I can just fix it, whatever. Point is, there's certainly times where I've done similar things, or like I've been like, yeah, we can totally do that. There's actually a great book by an improv troupe in Fort Worth. It's called Yes And.
Okay.
And it's the whole concept of like, when you're in improv, you never want to stop a scene. You want to say yes and. And so they took that principle, they wrote a book about it, and then it actually became such a popular business book.
I believe it.
Because they talked about how they leveraged that concept in their own business in order to get where they are now. I had them on a podcast years ago, like one of the founding members, and they've done talks at massive companies now about this idea of somebody saying to them, do you guys do this thing? They'd say yes, and we were going to get started next week on that. And then they'd start building it out because it was a great idea. And so there is some element to, and this can happen in product development also, where somebody gives you a new idea and you're like, we need to go implement that now. Yeah. And is it faking it till you make it to say that? Yes, we're going to do that, and we're going to start next week. Maybe, kind of. And it's also how innovation works. It's how, conversations even go that way too. Like, you'll say a thing, whether it's in the podcast, we're hanging out or we're working together or whatever, and we'll start riffing off each other really effectively, and we even do it with the team too. And I love a good green light thinking sesh, And all of a sudden, we started, over here, and we've traveled 3,000 miles, and we're on a mountain peak, and it's a totally different landscape just based off where the conversation led us. And there is some element to that of figuring it out as you go, or faking it till you make it.
Yeah. The reason I had the question was I recently saw a marketing story.
Okay.
Of the foundation of Tommy Hilfiger. Do you know this story?
I think I do, but jog my memory.
Tommy Hilfiger never scaled.
Okay.
This guy created his fashion line.
Right.
And he's like, I do not want to spend years becoming famous as a clothing brand.
Yes.
So him and his partner came up with this idea. They bought a billboard in New York City. And the billboard had on it the top 4 brands or fashion designers in the world.
Okay.
And it was like a hangman, like,
yep.
With so it had someone like answered it all though, right?
Yep.
And so it was like Calvin Klein.
Yep.
Ralph Lauren, another one that I don't remember, and then Tommy Hilfiger.
Okay.
And he went overnight from no one knows who I am, I've never sold a piece of clothing, to 8 figures.
Wow.
In demand for his clothing.
This is a story that I've heard. In fact, I'm gonna forget the ad guy's name that did it, but I've read a bunch of his books, and he talks about that process. So, I think it was Calvin Klein. I could be wrong, but they went to the ad agency guy, who's like a very famous advertiser on Madison Avenue, and they're like, "You just did for Tommy Hilfiger what took me 20 years to do. How dare you do that?" And he was like, if you would have just come to me, we could have done it with a couple billboards. We would have figured it out a lot faster. And like, it was all like, I mean, it was funny. And it's the kind of attitude that comes with a really heady person that knows how to push the envelope. And so I think that faking it till you make it thing, that's a really good story for how that kind of goes about. Because there is a sense of like the perception is reality.
So I want to extend the concept here a little bit.
Okay.
Because there's an interesting thing that can happen in business, specifically with marketing, that can be a good play if you're smart and brave enough to do it.
Okay.
Which is generate demand without everything figured out.
Yeah.
So, couple of like historical situations where this happened. Warby Parker,
heard of them.
Huge, right?
Yeah.
They launched their try on at home model. They had not figured logistics out at all.
Wow.
They had not figured out how to make it work and how to make it profitable, but they launched for demand.
Wow.
And so their demand scaled faster than their problems were being realized. And so they were able to then use that capital to fix the problem that they had never figured out in the first place. That was their whole model.
Yep. That's so interesting because it happens all the time. I have my own story about this.
Yeah.
Okay, so you and I are both big fans of Kickstarters.
Mm-hmm.
I've invested in a number. I think you have as well.
Totally.
And one of the things that's fun about that is it's the exact same model.
Mm-hmm.
They are trying to raise enough capital to solve a problem. One of the things that was really fascinating, one of the most interesting projects I ever helped fund, I got to know the guy who started it because I reached out to him and I was like, "Bro, I can tell that you're struggling. Let me know if I can help in any way. Here's like a quick background on me." He was like, "Yes, I need help. Can we chat?" So it's one of the most successful Kickstarters in relation to its total goal ever. I'm going to give the backstory really quick because I think it's fun. So this guy was a book designer. So not like cover designs.
Oh, I know where we're going with this.
Okay. And so he's a book designer and he's like, "Man, I don't like what's the best selling," like he asked this question. He's like, "What's the best selling book of all time?" And if you don't know, it's the Bible. And so he was like,
by a margin,
by a wide margin, right? And so he's like, "Okay, interesting. But traditionally, Bible book design, like on the outside, how it is not a pleasant experience. If you don't know, they're like very thin pages. They're so freaking thick. You could assault a person with it. Like it's wild.
Do you want it in slightly red leather or slightly black leather?
Totally. And it's just not an aesthetic book in comparison to a lot of other book designs that lay flat and that have a nice cover and that the pages feel good. And there's something about, I don't know if you feel this way. I feel this way. Do you like the smell of like new books?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, there's something about that, right? And you miss that with the kind of paper that they use.
Yep.
So he had this idea to fundamentally redesign how a Bible looks. And so instead of having it be one book, having it be 5 like separate books and like they're kind of broken up into different pieces. And he wanted it to be able to lay flat and he wanted it to feel good in your hand.
Yep.
And so I think that my wife and I, because we knew that my family would be like very big fans of this.
Mm-hmm.
I think we ended up buying like 5 box sets. Like,
Oh yeah.
it was because we wanted to do it. But then he started putting out updates. So he was originally trying to raise 40,000.
Mm.
He ended up making over 1.8 million in his Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And so that presented new challenges, new problems. What was going to be a side gig, a hobby, something that he just wanted to create and put out into the world, was all of a sudden a real business that had real issues overnight. And he was like, I mean, I remember getting on the phone with his name is Adam, super, super good dude. He was just, I mean, it was maybe 6-8 weeks after it fully funded. And he was like, dude, my head's kind of spinning. I thought I was going to do a cool side gig. Now it's like a full-time biz. And some of the things that he was talking about were that he was able to do that he never was thinking about doing at the smaller $40,000 budget was, he was like, I kind of want to do my own translation. So he hired a group of translators to translate the original texts into his own translation for Bibliotheca is the name of the project. And so it's its own thing. And then he sourced these materials from like Italy and this paper that was like repurposed from like Egypt. And he found ink it was crazy. Like every piece of every detail, there was something fantastic. And he had 0 of that figured out the day that it was closed and all the funding was done. It was just a wild, and then he he had a walnut case that he was going to put them in. And he was like, I was going to have a buddy make these for $20 a piece. And now I have to figure out how to make like 100,000 of these. You know what I mean? It's just wild. And so it's cool to see people kind of figure it out as they go, to your point. And it leads to some interesting problems, some challenges. It took him a lot longer to bring the project to market, but he ultimately had a better product. When you think about how you've kind of gone about this and the positive, because this was a positive for him, net gain, and positive for Warby Parker, have you had moments where you have faked it a little bit or like projected into the future beyond where you are right now, and then actually achieved it later and like have it be a positive thing?
I mean, I think for me, the biggest one is my TikTok following.
Ooh, yeah.
That was a complete and total accident.
Says the man with 100,000 plus followers. Okay, so when you say it was a complete and total accident, what the heck do you mean? Because like when you and I met each other, you already had a sizable following. Hilariously, I didn't find you on TikTok, but you already had a sizable following. How did that happy mistake come to be?
Yeah. So I did a lot of local networking. I focused mostly on local businesses when I started my agency.
Same.
I'm very good in person.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I'm fast on my feet. I'm not out here Googling stuff while we're on a Zoom call together. Like, I'm good at that.
Yeah.
So I focused on local, and there was a local networking group, kind of a bigger one than, a B&I group or something like that.
Sure.
And they're like, hey, you're one of the very few marketing people in the area. Would you come in and do a talk? Our people are interested in this thing, TikTok. This is almost 4 years ago at this point, by the way.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, totally, I can talk about TikTok. I had never even installed TikTok. I didn't know anything about it other than the name, and it was kind of like Instagram.
Yeah.
So I accepted this talk, and so I had about 30 days to prep for the talk. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do some research, figure some stuff out. I'm also going to open up TikTok and legitimately use it. So I would spend 45 minutes a day scrolling, and I would make at least 2 videos.
Nice.
I just wanted to see the edges of the platform and what would happen. And so I did that for 30 days. It got maybe like 500 followers, in the first 30 days. And I had no rules about my content.
Mm.
Like 0 rules. I actually, when I went to start my agency, I had to make a decision because I actually was starting to grow a following on Twitch. And so I was like, do I start an agency or do I try to be a Twitch streamer?
Yeah.
And I made the call to do the agency over the Twitch stream.
Yep.
So I had like a green screen. I had some basic camera gear and stuff. But I just started talking about the stuff I was doing in the agency on the day-to-day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do the talk. It goes fine. They really just wanted me to hear at that time, is China stealing our data? That was what they cared about.
Yep.
And so I was like, great, fun experiment. You know what? I'll do 30 more days.
Hilarious.
I'll do 30 more days. That way I can firmly say, you know what? I tried TikTok. 3 days later, I had a video go viral. I launched straight to 10,000 followers.
Good grief, man.
And the kicker for me was I got a couple people reach out to me to want to talk about my agency. And I got a client from TikTok. And I went, oh, that's weird. I didn't have to get dressed up and hunt down local business owners and, browbeat them for 3 months until they finally decided to give me 3 months of marketing budget for them. Maybe there's something here. So I was like, I'll just kind of keep doing this. And I've had phases where I've fallen off and gotten back on the horse and whatnot. But people were coming in those early days, like the sub 20,000 followers days. I had raving fans, a small group of raving fans that were like, dude, you know everything about marketing. Oh my gosh, you're so good at this. And I'm sitting there going, I know WordPress and some SEO. Everything else is just right off the dome. Like my best guess, at this point I hadn't worked with, a multi-million-dollar client or a logo of any kind. Like there was no reasoning for them to think that, but they did.
Mm-hmm.
And so over the next 4 years, I've learned how to cultivate that and improve myself, obviously, along the way. And so now I get asked for consulting gigs, and I have people reach out. The people who reach out to me through TikTok are very different now than they were 3 years ago. I have a small business. I've got a spend of $1,000 a month. Now I'm getting, companies, companies that you've bought stuff from, reaching out through my TikTok to engage with me. So, yeah, fake it till you make it is a wild thing and absolutely can work. And I would almost say, if you have serious aspirations for your business, why not?
I do think that there's a difference between, and I think this is a subtlety that we've hit, but I want to just call it out directly. There's a difference between calling the future to the present, which is like the Warby Parker conversation. It's the Kickstarter campaign that I mentioned. It's saying yes, and we were going to start that next week. That's like calling the future into the present and saying like that's going to be true sometime. And right now I'm figuring that out.
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, right. Oh,
the king.
Yeah, I mean, only the second richest guy in the world? Third?
Yeah, something like that.
He's in the top 10.
And he was able to convince a board at Amazon to lose millions of dollars for 10 years straight.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's part of the conversation that's worth mentioning here. That is different when you're casting vision, when you're trying to get there, than just straight up lying about a thing. And I think that there is something also that's true about faking it until you make it, where you're just like, I'm just gonna try a thing.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give it, like your TikTok, man. That's so good. Like, I love that you're like, well, I guess I should give it 30 more days. 3 days later, it's like popping off, and go, what?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, that's how a lot of really interesting work gets done. It's just going like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just playing around. We'll
Well,
figure it out.
yeah, and it's wild when you take those swings, what can happen. For example, I've had a conversation with Gary Vee. I know Gary Vee watches my content. Like,
Not to brag.
that's wild. Never in my wildest dreams would I have
Yeah.
thought that that was even a remote possibility.
Right.
From doing something kind of off the cuff and really, it wasn't lying, but like I wasn't where people thought I was, and I let them just believe that.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that there's something to also like projecting confidence that you're going to figure it out. And that is a learned skill that's not fake. You have to have some, I mean, you and I say this to my kids. My kids know this acronym, FIO. It is one of my favorite sayings. I'm like, y'all, FIO. It's figure it out. Because that's what business is. That's what, and I'll say this. I've said it before. I've talked with CMOs, VPs of marketing at some of the largest household name companies on the planet. They have no freaking clue what they're doing in marketing. I'll just share it with you so that you're not afraid. When you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Great. People at companies that I cannot talk about don't know what they're doing either, I promise. And you know these companies well and personally. And so, like, it's one of those things, man, where, like, we all have this misguided belief that, oh, they've got it figured out. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the problem. They're successful. I'm not. Dude, no one, when they go write their first book, when they start their first company, they don't have confidence. They're just trying to figure, they're like, let's give it a go. Let's keep trying. I don't know what's going to work. And sometimes just saying, let's go try this and we'll figure it out along the way is the path.
I know you're not a huge fantasy sci-fi reader, but that is
I wish it was.
That's the definition of Christopher Paolini.
Oh,
wrote
really?
The Aragon series.
Oh, dude, I know the Aragon series.
Okay. That first book, well, first of all, he wrote it when he was 14.
Good grief.
But you get to the end of that book, he had no idea what was next. Like, it's very clear that he just wrote something that was interesting.
Sure.
And had no idea where it would go from there.
I love that.
So, and yet it's top 50 fantasy book ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge series.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of the conversation. And then when you go into, most people listen to this, they're in marketing or they're in ownership/leadership of a company. When you think about faking it till you make it or like figuring it out, what are some ways that you've seen some of the scaling companies that we've worked with, in that like 15, 30, $40 million range, do any like stories come to mind for you for like, man, they just tried this thing and it didn't work, and then they tried this thing, it didn't work, and then they tried this other thing, it was like, whoa, that worked. I mean, is there anything that comes to mind for you in that space?
Like kind of a repeat attempt, failure until success? Is that what we're talking about?
Or maybe that they were just like, hey, we're going to hit this sales number in 3 years' time. And they tried a bunch of things in the first 6, 8, 9, 12 months, and the investors are getting cold feet, and then all of a sudden something works. I've got one if you don't.
Please.
Okay, all right. So I had this really niche client, and they had 5 different businesses, 5 different brands,
Okay.
all kind of in the same space, but 2 of them were in the training space. So they were actually teaching people how to do what the 3 other companies essentially did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was an interesting move because here's this guy that's very successful at running a service business locally.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I want to teach other people how to do this in their areas and get really good. And he wasn't excluding his area either. And so at first they tried to promote it by going to trade shows. And they're like, hey, you could do our online training course. Here's how much it costs. And it was very, very accessible price-wise. And it was good content, like really good. That didn't work. And he had a board that he had to report to because he's managing like a $15 million portfolio of those 5 firms. But these are the 2 smallest. And one of them he'd actually purchased from a guy up in Canada. And it had an existing book of business in Canada, but it had very few people here in the US. And so part of how he had to sell it to the board, because they gave him the funding to go get it, was, hey, we're going to grow that here. So he's trying to grow it, can't grow it that way. Then he tries doing direct mail pieces. Then he tries doing some digital advertising with different advertising firms. Then he's like running organic social media. Then he sets up, this was a long time ago, he sets up a Facebook group and he starts running that. And that starts to get some traction. Starts to get some traction. All of a sudden, people in his industry start to find the Facebook group. And all he's doing is seeding conversation. And sometimes he posted a throwback pic, by the way, when he started his first business in this space. And it was him in a crop top shirt and jorts that were like Daisy Dukes. And he's a tall guy. And so all these guys were giving him a hard time. They're like, nice, good look, man. And this is in the Facebook group. But then what that did was it gave him credibility because he was being vulnerable about, here's the mistakes I made. Here's the things that I did to fix it. Here's what's different about what I'm up to. And then he started to work with my ad agency, and we were able to take a lot of the learnings that he had figured out and really take those 2 training companies along with his other 3 firms and grow them really aggressively. And so the board was breathing down his neck because they had invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in this acquisition, and they had invested tens of thousands of dollars in like advertising and other things for this other space. And it was fun to come in and go, oh, well, what hasn't worked? It was one of my first questions, and he had a litany. And then I was like, what has worked? And he's like, the only thing that works is the freaking Facebook group. And I go, great, give me access. We dove in and we just started data mining the ish out of that, started creating ads that were based off the content that had the most engagement. And what do you know? It went gangbusters. And so quite literally, his previous ads team, I think, was making like a 1-to-1 ROAS. And we were every single month for the next 3.5 years, we got a 13-to-1 ROAS was our average.
Wow.
I mean, just printing money like crazy. And he didn't know what to do, and the board didn't know what to do, and they scaled up to about 28 million. And so it was a fun time, and I think it's one of those examples of it was already a pretty established business. What they had been using before was just cold calling and ground and pound, and it worked. But then they couldn't get beyond that. So how is it going to go do something new where they're selling an online-only product or an in-person only training instead of we're going to come provide a service or we're going to sell you equipment or something of that nature? So, yeah, anyways, any stories pop to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, one of my first marketing gigs, I worked for an IT company.
Nice.
And IT is a boring space, man. Let me tell you. There's not a lot of levers to pull from a marketing perspective. And so we're trying to find a new lever to pull. And we came up with this crazy idea. almost every, if not all, IT companies, at least in the area that we were servicing, were remote, right?
Yep.
We put our servers in, we put the software in your computers, we manage it back at headquarters.
Yep.
Okay. And so we got this idea. What if we, as part of your package, depending on what level you're on, put a person at your business once a week or, once every other week or something.
Nice.
A person that's there that, Susie can walk down with her laptop and go, this isn't working, right?
Yep.
And be with a person
Yep.
that knows what they're doing. The problem is we didn't have staff for that. But we started marketing it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what we ended up doing is we got a couple clients to bite. So we hired an hourly subcontractor.
Wow.
And that was his job, was to go sit in these places. And if it was over his head, he'd just say, let me take a look at it. And then he would call HQ.
Nice.
And HQ would walk him through what to do.
There you go.
Eventually, we had full-time staff members that was their job.
Right.
But we went to market with that with no real manpower solution. We just wanted to see if people would bite on it. And they did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Do you think that there's ever a time, I guess let's rephrase. When is the right time to, instead of faking it until you make it, essentially saying, look, this is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
You can find us. It's almost like, what is it? The WeWork movie. Have you seen that one?
I have not seen that one yet. I need to.
There's this moment where the guy that's playing Adam Newman is at Chase Bank, and they ask him, he's like applying for a business credit card or something,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy goes, "Okay, Mr. Newman, congratulations, you've received a Chase business card. We can give you a $50,000 limit." And Adam Newman goes, it's Jared Leto, by the way.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I think I'm going to need a little bit more than that. He goes, okay, well, how much do you think you need? And he goes, thinking about 40 million. And the guy like laughs at him and he goes, what? And he goes, I'm serious. And he goes, you only have, $40,000 in your bank account, Mr. Newman. We can't give you that much money. And he just goes, Google me. And so the guy Googles him, and he ends up going up to like the VP of Chase Bank. And they're like, Mr. Newman, we're super excited to have your business. I just want you to know, like the whole conversation changes because he had raised like a couple $1 billion at that point already. So when is the right, is it when you hit the unicorn status, when you hit the $1 billion plus, or the tres colmas, as they would say on Silicon Valley? What's the point in time where you say, dude, I don't need to fake this anymore. I'm just going to lean back on what I've already accomplished?
I think that's really up to you.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go that route where it's like, I had a big success. I'm going to lay back and let that be my big success. And there's a lot of people that choose that. And then you've got your Elon Musks who are like, I'm going to be the number one name in flamethrower sales. Like, it's just a hunger. It's different for each person. I would say from a business perspective, though, when your brand fully takes over, when the identity of your brand is immutable in face of mild pushback, or like Home Depot, we were talking about Home Depot, okay? If one person writes a bad review about Home Depot, it's not changing the marketplace's understanding of Home Depot, right? It's locked in. It's kind of more solidified. Yeah. Whereas, maybe you're a small, like, we've got this amazing taco truck in our town. The taco truck's name is Sonoran Hot Dogs. And they get so many reviews that are like, you sell tacos, why are you called Sonoran? They sell hot dogs too.
Sure.
But like, their brand is kind of in flux because of that. It's good. The people are going to see those reviews, and there's not enough solidity around their brand for it to make sense.
Right.
You know? So I think that there is a turning point where it's like the community establishes your brand for you.
Right.
But there becomes a point where the community would have to really team up to chip away at it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that there's a point in time, and it does depend on the personality of the individual, and it also depends on the personality of the brand too, if you're going to rest on your laurels, in essence, right? Like, to your point about Elon, like, he doesn't want to rest. He's not impressed what he's done so far, is the way that I would put it. Like, and I've heard him say that. He's like, we still haven't made it to Mars.
Yeah.
You know? And he's like, what we've done is good. It's getting us to the place I want to be. We have not accomplished the goal.
Oh, I totally vibe with that.
Yes.
I'm 35, and I have done more than most 90-year-olds in my 35 years. Humble brag. But I know I'm nowhere close to being done.
Same, man. I much to my wife's chagrin, I have told her a number of times I'm not impressed with what I've accomplished so far, and she's like, "That's insane. Have you looked at your resume?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I think that I should have been able to accomplish more. And she's like, "I really worry about you sometimes." I think that there's another way to look at it too, and I think that example of the hot dog taco stand
Yeah.
is a good example where there's a point in time where your brand is totally and completely out of your hands because you've got enough of the eyeballs and attention. I mean, you're at a point with this in some ways with your TikTok following at this point. Like, you have a good established, people know who you are, they know what you look like, they know, all that kind of stuff. So there is a point in time where it seems like people just have a belief about you without you having to call into from the future to the present, unless you are like one of those crazy people like Jake and I, and then you're always calling the future into the present. So yeah, I think that there's something there.
Total aside,
And
that's why I love this podcast, because I can just say random unrelated shit and it's fun.
Yeah.
There's an anime that just came out.
Okay.
I know you're not an anime guy.
No.
But it's got one of the most unique storylines I've ever seen. It's a universe where the superheroes, they are based off of the trust factor of the public. And their powers are based off of what the people believe their powers should be.
Whoa. What a cool idea.
Yeah. So there's one character who, like, she was a child, survives a plane crash. The only survivor of a plane crash. Everyone thinks she's lucky, so her superpower is luck.
That's awesome.
Right? But they also explore how it can be bad. Like, there's this one guy who he was a firefighter, saves this girl by, like, holding a burning beam from falling on her. And he gets out and he does, like, an interview, and he's like, all I could think was to stand tall. And so he becomes a superhero. But then it gets revealed at the end of the episode that he can't bend his knees anymore because people don't believe that he should not be standing tall. Like, that's their belief in him.
Wow.
Right? So very, very interesting. Perception is power.
Yeah.
But it also is limiting.
Right. Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Well, thanks, bro. This has been fun. I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah.
If you guys are liking the show, do us a favor. Leave a review, leave a rating, hit the subscribe button, share this with a friend that is looking for this kind of information, whether they're in marketing, a business owner, business leader, does not matter. It really helps to grow the show, and we want to help more people. If you are interested, you can follow Vox and Coin on any preferred social media platform. You can also follow Jake at The Wizard Marketing, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn as well. And then you can also follow me at RealDVal on all those platforms and Dave Valentine on LinkedIn. Jake, I love this, brother. It's been super fun.
Likewise.
Until next time, we'll catch ya.
Wonder Twin Powers activate. Form of marketing guy. Nailed it.
Nailed it.